I'm glad we're not running the experiment quite yet. Maybe we'll see where it goes and see if it makes sense.
Do you think Ren should run this experiment? Experiment?
Not until we get good evidence that it works well. So right now, although we have the problem of big money in our politics here in Renton, I'm not necessarily sure that democracy vouchers are living up to the expectations. Mm-hmm. And so I'd like to see Seattle or another municipality do that before I bring it, would advocate for it. Right. I think you can advocate for the idea. I think the idea is great, but as far as implementation, there's a lot to be seen.
Right. And so one of the most hot topic buttons in today's world, probably the 21st century world, is about campaigning finance law. Mm-hmm. And basically, how are you able to ensure yourself that you have the finance to finance your campaign in a safe, secure, and also transparent way? And so, do you think let's say if this program is being implemented, right, the democracy vouchers program in the city of Renton, do you think the people of Renton has the right to finance law transparency when this program becomes in effect?
Yeah, and to be kind of clear, the Public Disclosure Commission here in Washington State does provide really good transparency. Right. So you can look at my donor list, right? You can see the names, you can see the general cities where they live and the amount.
Yeah.
And you'll see Renton. I mean, it's just pure Renton. And it's good because you want a candidate that actually represents your city, doesn't represent outside.
Right.
And you can see my opponent's record, which is Seattle, Olympia, Seattle,
right.
Renton.
Yeah.
And voters can look at that and say, okay, this person actually is not here to represent Renton. They're here to represent the interest of somewhere else, possibly. Or they may say that that's fine. I'm happy with that. That's up for the voters to figure.
Right. Yeah. I see. So the reason why I asked that is that nowadays, we hear on the news about Donald Trump's tax records and all of that, and we need more of the government transparency. So this is a pretty big issue, especially with the. I mean, to the Seattle's budget, $3 million, not a lot. But when someone just glance over the number, they think $3 million is a lot, considering you're grabbing money from every Seattleite. So the question of transparency comes up often in this conversation, in other conversations. So and then we talk about okay. So we're gonna talk about a bit more shifting. We're gonna still stay on the economic part. We're gonna shift over a little bit about big interest. So we know that in this city of Renton, we have Boeing, which is a pretty huge corporation here in the city of Renton, and let's say if we were to implement this democracy vouchers program, right, in the city of Renton, how are you able to ensure that you would keep the democracy vouchers program out of big interests?
So you worried that
from tampering into the
so program. Boeing would direct its workers to give democracy vouchers?
Yeah, probably.
And we have the same problem in our voting. Do big interests, can they direct their people to vote a certain way?
Yeah, right? That's correct.
And so I think to a certain extent we have to kind of trust that if somebody were to get a direction like that, my management or my company or has told me to do this, that they would speak out. And Boeing has a huge population of workers, so if they were to tell their employees, hey, go direct your democracy vouchers, I'm hopeful that somebody would say that, come to the authorities and say, hey, I was given this instructions, or hey, I was told to vote this way. So it would be hard, I think, for a big organization to steer democracy vouchers, because it's done on an individual level.
Right.
And if there was evidence of them trying to steer it, I think there would, obviously there should be a law.
I would agree. But I'm thinking more of a different way that they can try to implement that is that lobbying, basically. They're trying to lobby out the program or arguing that it's not good for their interests. So how do you respond to that? because
Yeah, so
you said,
you're worried that the corporation would fight against the democracy vouchers?
yeah, or they're trying to lobby or like
Yeah.
use their money to lobby.
Yeah, so that currently happens.
Yeah.
That currently happens. Large corporations, large interests can fund campaigns. Yeah, and it's up to voters to pay attention to who they vote for to figure out whether they think that's okay. So it already is a problem.
Yeah.
Of big money influencing campaigns.
But
And voters, I would hope, would look into that.
yeah, but how do you prevent that lobbying happens in, let's say, the Rennes City Council meeting, or like I don't know, maybe.
So when you say lobbying, people just
not lobbying, but like they come up to the city meeting, and then they maybe like a voting representative comes there and like saying like
Boeing is part of our community, so they provide an amazing amount of jobs. They're so I hope Boeing would come to the council meeting and share their concerns and share maybe something that they would like or something that they've seen. So that's actually they're part of our community, even though they're a corporation. Yeah, they're part of our community, so they should approach us.
Yes.
Now, what they shouldn't do is pay us. Right. So if they approach us in the council meeting, that's open. You can see that, and that's a good thing. And if they ask for something unreasonable, and we can see that as citizens, we can see that. But generally, we've had a history of not having corruption here in Renton that I know of. We do still have a history, though, of large corporations and large interests funding campaigns. That's I think started to be a problem in the last probably 8 years.
Yeah. Okay. And if those campaigns actually come up to the city council meeting and they say, let's not please do not let this democracy vouchers program be implemented here in Syria, and how would you respond to that? Like,
it's not their decision; it's the citizens' decision, it's the council's decision. So they can bring their concerns. If they come up to us and say, "I have a legitimate concern," we should listen to that.
Correct. And
use our discernment, but we should keep the communication lines open. Communication's fine, even if we disagree with it.
Got it.
In fact, communication is good, especially when you disagree with it.
Right, that's right.
Because we may learn something,
So, with that, we're done with the big interest ones. Hopefully, I don't know, because Seattle, they have a lot of like corporations there, so the rate at which the influence is like swap back and forth is pretty huge, because it's a big city. It's not like Renton. Renton is like way smaller than Seattle. This is like only has Boeing, doesn't have like other companies. So let's see. So let's say we implement this program, right? So another hot topic that usually comes up nowadays is misinformation, which is you have probably heard from like the Facebook hearing or any other like that. So people tend to I don't know, maybe read on Facebook posts about something and it's a misinformation, and they have they misunderstand the purpose of the democracy vouchers program. So if implemented, how will you ensure the people are informed and be literate about the democracy vouchers program, so that they don't fall into misinformation? And I'll pull up this let's see, I'll pull up this let's see, hold on. So there was that's weird. So there was my file is just kind of like crashed.
You take your time, no worries.
Yeah. That's weird. Oh, crash. Okay, well, I just kind of wing this. I kind of remember
I think you sent it to me. Do you want me to take a look, see if I can find it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Right.
So I have to do a lot of cutting today. Yeah, because of this. So if implemented, how will you ensure that the people are informed and literate about the program so that they don't fall into misinformations and big interest groups? And I'm gonna talk this one. I think it's the other file where it got crashed, but I remember the story. So so there was so often according to the Seattle Times actually, so probably in 2019 there was a couple cases of people reporting that kind of like their them not understanding how it works, so they state that they send it in but they send it incorrectly, or their mails go missing, and so it's
Yeah.
not, yeah, so they're being misinformed about the correct ways to use the democracy vouchers program. So again, with the question, how will you ensure that the people, if this was implemented, that the people are informed and illiterate
Yeah,
about
if it was implemented, communication would have to be the key. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so we'd have to mail instructions with the democracy vouchers. And here in Renton, we have a very diverse population, so we'd want to make sure that not only it was in English, but in all the majority of the languages that are spoken here.
Right,
So the communication would have to come with the democracy vouchers itself.
right,
And you wouldn't, I think it wouldn't stop, just you would keep communicating. Every time somebody got a democracy voucher, you would give them the instructions and what to look out for, and how to use these reasonably. Yeah. You can have workshops, as people get used to this, and the city has good communications in one of the cable channels. So you
Right.
have to outreach and communicate
Right.
over and over and over again.
yeah, that's right. Because this is based on my personal anecdote. I actually received one of the democracy vouchers program in Seattle from a friend, of course. Oh yeah, from
Sorry.
yeah, from a friend, and and he needs help from me because he didn't understand what it was. So I come in, and well, the first time I host the thing, the democracy vouchers with the city of Seattle emblem, I didn't really understand what it is. I thought it was like some kind of stimulus check. So yeah, even I am fallible to the kind of like the misinformation and not understanding how like the democracy vouchers program works. But yeah, so that so I hope that we can clear up a little bit of that, so that.
And this, you've probably seen that there's been some problems. Like one of the city council candidates, I think Andrew Grant Houston, had more democracy vouchers.
Right.
Then he actually got votes.
Right.
And so that doesn't mean, is it subject to, is there, and the campaign, as I understand, the person that helped with this campaign made a fair amount of money. I don't want to say that anything nefarious was going on, but he ran a very vigorous campaign that used a lot of democracy vouchers.
Right.
And didn't seem to turn into votes.
Yeah, we when I was like doing a bit of research and on this, like I did come across like names like the Houston or another person. Her name was Teresa Monsela, and I think she was in 2017. She said she's about 36 right now. So she 2017 she decided to run for the Seattle City Council, and she ran on there promising to give affordable health care and affordable child care, and in 1 month she was managed to raise $300,000.
Wow.
Right, tying second place with another person named John Grant, and also behind first place runner Pete Holmes, who is the city attorney.
Yeah.
Right. So so here's the crucial question that I really want to ask, because it's the behind the purpose of this program, is that do you think